Hi there, Doug Milburn, President and co-founder of 45 Drives, here with
Brett Kelly, Technical Director here at 45 Drives.
So we're here today to talk about
CrowdStrike.
Everybody's been talking about it. It's obviously a really relevant topic to everybody, the magnitude of the damage here. But I think you can get some really interesting insight into dangerous practices inside the industry. Absolutely. And some insight about where to go and where to fix it up. So let's do that. Let's dig down a little bit, and we'll share the way that we at 45 Drives and the open source community sees the world, and how these ever-present risks, how it's so much more mitigated under the open source model.
Absolutely, well said.
So, CrowdStrike, what happened, Brett?
Well, long story short, an update was forcibly pushed to 8 million or more devices worldwide, airports, financial sector, medical institutions, everywhere, and crippled the world. I'm sure everyone saw that was the Friday of past, and memes were flying everywhere about it, and everyone was just talking about, oh, this is what they meant by Y2K. But jokes aside, what happened? A forced update. An update came from CrowdStrike, which is a security software that is used, great piece of software used all around the world. But yeah, the update came flying into all these machines, unattended, and installed a kernel level driver that unfortunately blue screened any Windows machines trying to boot up. So you can imagine the pandemonium, and it's something like an airport trying to fly, and everyone's going, what's going on? Trace it all back. Is it a cyber attack? Is it this? Is it that? I think
little whoops.
Little whoops is what it was, but a little whoops can cause that big of a mess.
So, and interestingly, that week, inside 45 Drives and our larger organization, we struggled with 2 forced updates as well. I'll tell you about those very, very quickly. And the magnitude is completely different, but the principle is the same. So Microsoft Windows did a forced update, and in our production facility, we have an area called Paint Prep, and they use Roland printers. And for whatever reason, that update broke the printer driver, and those printers stopped functioning and shut down. Production stops moving through that part of the plant. Big pile of work piles up. IT emergency. Day before that, there was a forced update to Microsoft Outlook, which our organization uses in our sales groups. And it did, it was a pretty specific bug that it had. There was a certain type of attachment that if you sent that attachment, all of a sudden your Outlook client would freeze for five minutes or more. And it really disabled, because it's the most common kind of attachment that we use. So it disabled our sales group. Yeah. So wow, pattern here, isn't there?
Yes, there is. This happens.
And we've been dealing with this forever, and forced updates. I use Microsoft Windows as my desktop at work. I have Linux at home, but I use it at work. Something's going to change. So I go off for a video conference, important video conference. I'm a busy guy. I do a lot of stuff. And I'm there, and I delayed my update. And next thing you know, the update's like banging its way there. And it's like, and then I got to sit down and I got to call people up on my cell phone and say, yeah, I'll get on the Zoom eventually.
Yeah, as soon as it finishes.
And it's like, no, can I not have, I paid you for this software, can I not have control of it? And no, Bill Gates and crew says, no, they own my machine. They'll do what they want with it.
Absolutely.
So anyway, we look at that. I got asked by a journalist the other day about this, and he said, what can the industry do? What can, if you're, your IT staff or your CIO or industry providers, like CrowdStrike, well, assuming that there's nothing malicious there and this was indeed a mistake. So. That's what I think. So these are everybody acting in good faith and they shut things down. So what do you do? How do you avoid doing this? Is it possible?
Well, it's hard. The current model of having to adhere to security risks and pushing updates, and well, if you're going to stay with proprietary, I don't think there's a way around it, because they own you. You don't have control. Like your rant story that you just told there, they will decide when something's going to go in, and you don't have the audit trail to kind of see what's changed or what's coming in. They often pack updates the same way politicians pack omnibills. You know, like
you
it's
never
like,
know
oh,
what's in.
performance tweaks, but you don't really know what's in there. You're always looking for a change log. There's like 2 lines, fix some things. But then all of a sudden, fix some things turns into a blue screen.
Forrest Gump's box of chocolates.
And
isn't
that
it?
might be a little bit of an exaggeration, because it's just like, oh, this broke, it happens every time. But my whole point is the faith. You have to have faith that what they did was not malicious or not incorrect. Everyone makes mistakes. There's process failures everywhere, hence what we just saw with the CrowdStrike event. So I think if you're going to stay with the proprietary model, now this will happen again.
The words of a famous U.S. president: trust and verify. And with the proprietary model, I just think about it. It just sometimes it blows me away when I think about that. You have your mission critical infrastructure that keeps your organization going. You know, it's your in the IT side of things. It's your living. It's your it's everybody, because the infrastructure lets cash flow in these organizations or operates government and airports and healthcare. Mm-hmm. And you allow an organization to come in to kernel level, reach through your firewall in this age of security. They get to reach in anytime they want. And for any purposes, we'll talk about that. I mean, the purposes of, okay, security update, you got to have those, but God, Microsoft will update and you get a new menu structure or something that you didn't ask for.
Hence the omnibus updates I describe.
Omnibus updates, and you go, like, whose value is that? I mean, they want to look cool. And, our point, as 400 employee organization, all of a sudden I got to go, everybody says, oh, how do you do that now? And it's pure productivity loss. Every time there's an update, there's a risk. The risk of an honest mistake, good. But how about a social attack inside the organization that compromises code, puts a backdoor in? We'll talk about that example after we get to our next section of this. Okay. And it could happen in a heartbeat. You don't know, and they inject a mistake or malicious code right into the heart of your organization. It amazes me that people put up with that. Trust, and let's leave the verify out.
Yeah.
Absolutely fascinating.
It's called faith.
Yeah, it's blind faith. The blind faith. You got to trust people. You have to trust to get along in the world, but trust and verify. You can't. If you're in a proprietary model, you just can't do that. Let's change topics a little bit.
Right. Sounds good.
Let's talk about open source, because you can get my and Brett's just like, do you guys really do that? Does the whole industry just do this? How do we get talked into that? That's the proprietary world. So we're in the open source world. And open source tackles it very, very differently.
Absolutely.
What's the big difference, Brett?
Well, first of all, the elephant in the room on that one is code's open. That's what open source means. You can go read the code. Someone hosts it somewhere, most likely in GitHub or their own hosted GitLab or whatever. But the point is, the supply chain of software is available to go see what's up. Now, I'm not asking every open source user to go dive through the source code, but my point is, you can if you need to. You can trust, but you can verify, or you can't on the other side of things. That's the first thing that's big about open source. The other big thing I'll hit about open source is, when an update does come in, you can do it alongside everything else. I update my machine in the morning as I'm doing other things, and I reboot it at the end of the day. But I don't get the screen taken over and they go, oh, your updates will be over in 50 minutes, and then all of a sudden it's 30 and back now. I'm just making fun of progress bars that never work.
Sit there with Billy's little spinning things.
2024 and our progress bars still don't work. Like, CrowdStrike fixed it right away. That wasn't the issue. They found what the issue was, they fixed it, they moved it. But the act of fixing 8 million devices that have been blue screened, BitLocker connected, you can't automate that. You can't do any of that.
The lost time and the cost.
I think they estimated like $5.4 billion that day lost, amazing, or something like that. Anyway, my point there was the fix is almost inconsequential or whatever. What if they didn't fix that? What if they were like, oh, whatever, we need to do something else? Well, open source, you could go in and maybe fix it yourself, patch it just to get yourself running again, so you can run. You have options. You can't just sit there and please fix this. faith.
Yeah, and let me throw in the other one, further to what you said. I love an open source. My Linux machine at home says there's updates available. I look through them.
Yeah.
They're very
I
transparent.
missed that. Thank you. You're exactly right.
Incredibly transparent.
Yeah.
They're absolutely transparent. And I can decide if and when I want to put these things in. If they're frivolous, I go, yeah, I'm not bothering that. Like, why would I bother? Like, if frivolous updates, there's nothing to do. And so, yeah, and I said, they're not sitting there, force me to do it, sit me in front of a spinner. Yeah, they're a totally different world.
Yeah, it's nice. Now, with that said, you have choice and control there so you can work around it. I'm not sitting here and saying that Linux machines cannot be broken.
Absolutely.
I've kernel panicked one before. Yeah. I'm sure many developers have. But you catch them before you push them out. That's your whole testing procedure. Yeah. But that's the whole thing. You don't hear it as much as in the Linux open source Unix world because of the way the operating systems are architected, the way updates make their way into big distributions. Yeah. You'll often see something come out, it'll hit a bleeding edge repo, like say an Arch or a Fedora or something like that, and eventually it'll end up in Enterprise. So Enterprise likes to lag a little bit because it's safe.
Yeah.
Rather than update, boom, into 8 million devices.
So us as one of the founding sponsors of Rocky Linux.
Exactly.
And Rocky and there you go, the robustness of open source. IBM, Red Hat torpedoed CentOS.
CentOS, yep.
And if that was proprietary, you end up like all the VMware users. Yeah, I'm in trouble. I got to go do something else. It's not a big deal. Rocky, they branch. Good. Everybody keeps using CentOS, and they branch. And another example, the robustness of the whole open source model.
Yeah, the model, and everyone say it's community driven. When you hear community driven, you almost think the average folk out there. True, but the community of organizations and institutions and everyone as well too. Sweet. Rocky has brought together Oracle, Amazon, a bunch of them, all to build this circle of like, no, we all need this to run. So when we say community driven, we mean community all the way from like top organizations to the worlds to like the developers sitting there contributing and moving these projects forward.
So well, other interesting, the SSH backdoor issue.
That was cool.
That's fascinating, a great example. Tell us about that, Brett.
Okay, so a couple months ago, someone found, it's really funny how the story came out, so let me get it. Before I get into the story, the tagline is someone, and when I say someone, we'll get into who someone is. There was a organized, dedicated attack, if you will, and I'll put that in quotes because we'll get there, to sneak a backdoor into a compression library used in OpenSSH. OpenSSH is used to remote into machines everywhere. It's the de facto way to SSH and shell access into a server. Someone put that code in there into that library, and there was found that over a period of 5 years or so, this user, who turned out to be slightly anonymous because no one really knows where they are now, started to put checks and code and remove certain checks into this library that eventually was found to be a backdoor into SSH. How it was found, which is funny, and I'll touch just a second right now, is there's some developer down who is so used to remoting into their box and they're just doing it because this is how they work. Notice that their login took like longer than it should have, like sub-second, but he could just feel it in his hands and he's like, something's wrong here. So what did he do? Well, looked into code. Looked into GitHub, not everyone can do this, but this went, looked, and all of a sudden started showing people, and then this whole story unraveled of what looks like to be the sophistication you need to do this was probably a state level actor. Now which state? Pick one. Us, them, everyone in between, who figured it out?
A bad guy.
But a bad guy. The whole point here is someone had a dedicated effort to try to sneak something in to a piece of code that's used worldwide, and went about it in a very slow, meticulous fashion to try to hide it to get in. And they almost succeeded, but they didn't, because someone trusted, or someone didn't trust, or maybe did, but saw that something was wrong, and went and verified.
And they verified, yeah.
And they caught it.
No, it's beautiful. What a great example. Trust and verify. If you imagine the same thing happened in something proprietary, And you got to imagine over time that not only can it happen, it probably has happened.
Yes.
It's probably there. And you get a fraction of a second on a login screen. Yeah, go call up Microsoft Windows and say, guys, I'm a little irritated because I was logging in the other day and it's taken like a fraction of a second longer. Like they'd laugh at you.
Yeah.
Like they'd just laugh you out of there and they'd go on their business and go on making money and doing what they do. I don't hate Microsoft either. I respect the ecosystem they created and everything else. But this practice of forced update, of controlling you, and the little bit of disdain for customers does rankle me a little bit.
Yep.
And so such. You talk with us at 45 Drives. You talk security with us. We take security very, very seriously. You want to, our enterprise customers. It's secure systems. It's got to work, and it can't get broken into, right? Mm-hmm. And you can never assure that things break down. People do break into things, but here's what you do. Enterprise Linux, whatever you put up on top of that, SF, ZFS, or whatever else in storage or Proxmox, and you put that in there. You lock up root access. Mm-hmm. Nobody gets into root access. You just don't do it. You don't let other people come into root unless it's very, very specific. Well, maybe we come in with our customers, whatever. Exactly. Very temporary. Customer controls access, and you lock that down. You put in redundancies. You need it to work. You put in redundancies. Good. Redundant power supplies, redundant networking, hard drive redundancy, cluster level, server level redundancy, and install your hardware or install your software hardened by default. Mm-hmm. Close everything down.
Shut all the firewall ports you're not using. Everything.
Extremely intentional about what you open up. Yep. And make secure choices. And then the other thing, our SnapShield, behavioral analysis software to watch your servers, to watch if anybody's walking into the vault with a bag repeatedly, and looking for suspicious behavior like that. And you do that, and you just get to the ultimate of it, right? And then manage your updates. Yep. Manage your updates. We manage it for people. Mm-hmm. A lot of it is baked into our enterprise Linux.
Exactly.
And you end up. It is a dramatically different world. That's why I say it boggles me when I think about it. It just happens, It's like we serve our customers.
Exactly.
And it feels like with Microsoft, it's like they've lost touch, and it's like their customers serve them and need to do as they're told. And we don't like that. Anyway, as such, we have an event happening. It's our Creators Summit, which I'm sure many of you will be familiar with from last year. And we got a great group coming this year. And one of our big topics is Demicrosoftification. Yes, practice saying it.
Well, I'm glad you said it because I'm still struggling getting the word out.
we're actively taking some of our groups. Microsoft is core for some software, like our CAD software engineers and CAD software. It's going to be Microsoft. And again, I don't have anything totally against that. But we got a bunch of other areas we don't need it, and we are actively switching groups inside our organization over to Linux desktop. The server in the back end is fully, fully open source.
Well,
back end
little anecdote on that, so we don't want to go too long here. But the marketing team told me about CrowdStrike at 11:30 because Brandon, our IT guy, and I was off in Building 3 doing something else. And they're like, "Well, did you hear? Or were we affected?" And I was like, "Oh, it's the first I'm hearing about it because our critical infrastructure doesn't run off that."
Absolutely. Yeah. Anyway, so there you go, and tune in. We just talked about this another video. I think we're going to update on hard drives, hard drive torture.
Yeah,
we're going. Anyway, it's cool the fact that that's still running. I absolutely love it. Stay tuned for Creators Summit coming up in about a month now.
Yeah, that's gonna be fun.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you very much.
See you later.